Hello, 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 and the screen is all screwy. I have fixed it. Welcome to another episode of the Crisis Podcast. I decided to do a display capture, not a application capture, and you just saw OBS menus. Anyway, today we are talking about a epic RPG from the PS1 era, The Legend of Dragoon. As you know with these shows, we love to bring guests on just to add more to our conversations, and returning on another number one show, all the way from episode 1 to episode 11, Mike Byrne, Magickmann1, how are you, sir?
I'm well, my friends. How are you? Good to be back. Thank you so much for the invite. I
always love having you here.
It's always fun. Always fun. So, like, what? I have to come back every 10 now? Is that how it works?
It
like
might be.
11, 21.
All I know is come 2 weeks' time when I record the show, I will have had a trifecta of the Relic grind up here.
Yeah,
we are getting Mr. Adam Lane on.
Yeah, you got Adam Lane coming to talk about, I think, what, fighting games?
Yeah.
And then Tark, you had on just recently or going to have on? I can't remember what.
I think we've had Tark twice now. We had him in the first show. We had him back on for 7 Remake. And then he's coming on for Crisis Core.
Crisis Core, that's right.
Yeah.
He's coming up soon for Crisis Core. That was the one. It's his birthday today, by the way.
Yeah.
So happy birthday.
Shout out to Dargoff. Happy birthday,
no,
sir.
No April Fools. It is actually his birthday.
You must get all the jokes on that birthday. It wasn't really your birthday. No presents for you.
Have seen any good April Fool's posts today? I seen my partner sent me it, and it was sriracha deodorant. And I said, yeah, that does exist. It's called Mace. It's just
it's delicious. You love it.
Yeah, I haven't really looked around for any April Fool's jokes because we haven't had any good ones from 14 since the Omega one, so it's been a bit of a letdown. Yeah. Anyway, back a little to the show. Ash, how are you, sir? My co-host, as always.
Yes, I am spectacular. Obviously, it's been a while since I should have jumped on the stream with you a lot.
You unfortunately couldn't make the last podcast.
Yes, when we did the charity streams as well, it's been a bit of a palaver for me. There's obviously I'm come September, I'll be traveling, but at the same time, I'm interviewing for a leadership role with my current employer. So it's all going on at once for me. So it's real life is stopping me from playing games, unfortunately. But that's just what happens when you hit 30.
Good luck with the interview.
Yeah,
that's good news.
Yeah, hopefully he gets it. He bloody works hard. I've known him in this role for years now, and he tends to always do the work of 3 people at the same time, so he needs to get rewarded in this one.
Just a little bit. Just throw me a crumb. Come on, guys.
So, quickly before we get into the crux of the show, what have you guys been up to in the gaming sphere? Let's start with you, Ash, since you're the busy one.
Yeah, well, with the limited time that I have, obviously, as you've probably seen me earlier, I was playing on Forbidden West Horizon. Obviously, it took me. It's very similar to when I played Ghost of Tsushima. I remember I got the game and I had it for about a month or two, and I was kind of dipping my toes in, playing for like a few minutes, do a mission here or there, and I never kind of fully committed till eventually it just clicked, and you just binge and
you're lost
play
in
the
it.
game through and through. Same for Ghost of Tsushima, same for Zero Dawn when I first played that, and today was the first time I actually sat down and played a good chunk of Forbidden West, and yeah, I feel like I'm really getting into it now.
Nice. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy 14, it's kind of weird. We've talked about that on different shows, but it's in this like weird spot where I feel I have like very little to do. And that's not to say there's not a shit ton of stuff to do. There is, but like the stuff the stuff that I opt to do at this point. Like, so right now, Final Fantasy 14 is kind of like log in, check the Island Sanctuary dudes, make sure nothing's dead, everything's eating, and then pop on over, finish my dailies with the Loporits, which, I have all the rewards that I want. I'm just polishing off the Bloodsworn rank, so it's just a completionist thing.
Yep.
So like on that front, not a lot, but while that may be a bad thing, it on the good side of things, I have been able lately to get into a lot more other things. So like Theatrhythm, Final Fantasy Theatrhythm came out. I just the same thing you said, Ash. It was like I played it for a day or two, didn't have a lot of time, but knew I was gonna like it. And then, oh look, I got evenings free for like the next 4 days, and it was just like banging those songs out to get my PlayStation Platinum there.
Nice.
And then sitting on the Steam Deck emulating the hell out of the entire world. Like that's been a blast. Not just like the game we're talking about today, but a lot of games from the past. You're just like, oh, such a great game. I forgot how good this was. Yeah, I'm gonna play through this again.
Yeah. For myself, 14 login for operates. Also, as I was saying in the pre-show, helping out another free company. We're teaming up now, tackling some extremes and raids. It's their first time getting into endgame content, so I've taken on that leader mentality and guided them through a fight.
Yeah, that kind of threw me off with the.
Log into
jump on
Discord. It's like there's so many people
from time to time, and jump on, and it was like twice as many, 3 times as many people as we usually have. Yeah.
But also playing Legend of Dragoon on the PS5 because it has trophies, and why not? Let's get that platinum. Trying to think anything else I'm playing. Going through Xenoblade Chronicles 3 slowly. 80 odd hours into that.
Wonderful game.
And streaming myself normal games, so getting through Middle Earth Shadow of War, laughing at some of the systems in that game.
I forgot to mention, obviously, I finished Star Ocean Divine Force because you're going to be lending an hour for me as well. Come around, but that one was an improvement from the last one, that's for sure.
That's not hard though.
It's not hard at all.
I agree with you 100%. It is that Divine Force is absolutely better.
Although
the bar was low at that point.
I followed the guide for the. You can completely rinse the crafting system and get all your characters level 255, which I that last battle and it was the last boss kind of bigs it up with this like I am this all being, you can't touch me, and then. Yeah, and it was just like 4 seconds in if difficulty. It was silly, but
modern games.
I know this is like totally off topic, but as a Star Ocean fan, and assuming you are too, do you think that IP is done? Like Divine Force, I kind of watched going into that. Like this might be Star Ocean's last gasp when it comes to. Square Enix being willing to put any more money into it.
Yeah.
And although Star Ocean fans are kind of like, okay, this was a little bit better than previous ones, the sales data just wasn't good for it.
It's a very budget game. I wouldn't go into it expecting the same quality, the same work that's gone into like into the obviously like a Final Fantasy title, which was a shame because obviously when it was Tri-Ace and Star Ocean, I would say up to A New Hope, really had quite a big budget, and I think A New Hope was at least 80 hours, wasn't it? Gameplay. It was really fleshed out. It was a
depends
solid
if
game.
you was going for the trophies, because that quickly turned into a 700+ hour game.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas I just felt like it was a faithfulness,
integrity,
and
bloody titles.
I felt like that was a real downgrade in what they had in budget, but like it made a poor story as well. With this one, they did definitely improve, and story-wise and the battle systems were much more enjoyable. But that budget is really low. It's the same for wasn't it Valkyrie Elysium?
Yeah.
I haven't played that, but what I've read from the reviews is that they some people don't really count it a Valkyrie game. It just feels like some IP that they just like some game that they just slapped together, slapped the Valkyrie IP on it, and just released it.
Yeah, we just like all know how Square Enix is, right? This failed to meet expectations. What are you talking about? It sold 1.2 million units. Yeah, it failed to meet expectations, and this one failed to meet expectations. I kind of feel like they might be like, Star Ocean. I think the best bet for a future Star Ocean is at best a Star Ocean 2 remake treatment.
Yeah,
but I don't know if we get any more new Star Ocean.
Or they franchise it out.
Keep
it under the Square Enix banner, but be part of the collective.
Sell, give somebody the IP in the collective, and then just publish.
Yeah, obviously Star Ocean 2 being my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, back then, the Star Ocean titles really kind of were in their own element. Then where now it's Square Enix. Their main baby is obviously Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, but yeah, it feels like Star Ocean's kind of fallen from grace in that sense.
But with Square Enix, like, what do they count as a success these days? As the
I
game
just
made
think
its money back and you made a profit, then that should be good enough. Yeah, you want to have these crazy increase in sales. It's like, you've just released how many games within, 6 months?
Yeah.
People don't have that many.
it's not just that they think just because they can put the Square Enix title out that like brand against it that they think that it should sell plenty and then their targets for like what they class a success or a failure is just they're setting the bar too high for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, which to budget correctly and on money because expect a certain sales expectation reasonable, and then they go into the live business and they can't keep one of those running months before they're just shut down. I don't know. I'm a little worried about them.
Well, we'll
Anyway.
see how it goes.
Like, I just wanted to I don't talk to a lot of Star Ocean fans myself, so I was let me
Yeah,
do this.
it's always good. That's why I like decided the show to be, let's just catch up, let's just talk, whatever we want to get off our chest. And it's a gaming show, We might have a main topic, but it's a gaming show. Let's just chat shit. It's like watching you on Reddit grind yesterday, and you're giving us horror trivia with Freddy Krueger's shit.
It's just like whatever I feel like saying.
And
Those are some of the best shows, right?
Yeah,
Like
well,
we do dedicated podcasts on Ready Check Radio. So like we have the Square Enix Final Fantasy 14 podcast. So it's very dedicated on whatever Square Enix happens to be doing. But then there's shows where you're just like, you know what? I don't want to talk about any of this. Let's talk about our favorite RPGs that aren't Square Enix on the Square Enix podcast. And some of those times you end up with like the best shows because they just go off the rails.
Yeah, it's like a mutual friend of ours, Matt. The 2 shows we've brought him on, we have just gone way past time. I think our one show we were covering the Game Awards or something, just watching trailers. That was a 3 to 4 hour show, and we didn't even realize the time. Because we were just talking, and you get when you just
I think
talk.
I said something
It's
on
not
the lines of I've
structured,
never
just
played.
talking.
I think I mentioned something on the lines I've never played Paper Mario, and he got really offended.
Oh,
No.
I'm a little offended, but we won't rehash it. We won't rehash.
Anyway, as we get into the main core of the show, Legend of Dragoon, I have a question for all of you. How did you discover the game?
I actually was a manager of a video game store at that time. So as we left the PS1 era and went into the PS2 era, for about those 2 years-ish, it was a mom and pop thing. It wasn't like a GameStop or anything like that. It was a local 3-store chain. It's out of business now. It went out of business then. But it couldn't compete with the Exchange and those stores that were bigger and had a little more financing to be able to give you a little more on the trade-in than the guy that owned the store could, type deal. But anyway, so anything that came in, we would open one copy on the shelf because we had all the systems hooked up. And that was one of the real cool things about the mom and pop store, right? It was, hey, Ash comes in and he says, what the hell is the Legend of Dragoon? Well, let me just throw disc 1 in for you and let you have 15, 20 minutes to screw around with it for a little bit, and you'll see exactly what it is. And if you want to buy it, it's $49.99. That's like a really cool feature. So we had everything. And obviously, I knew the release slate. And I'm not going to lie, when I first saw, because the internet wasn't quite what we know it today yet, right? It was very in its infancy in 99, 2000. So I see the Legend of Dragoon. I'm like, is that related to Panzer? Is this going to be something Panzer Dragoon related? And I was like, no, it's not. Oh, this wants to be Final Fantasy VII. Okay, that's fine. And I'm all here for it. Let's do it. Let's see what this is like. So I actually got to play it just as a part of my job at the time. Got paid to play it.
You can't go better than that, can you?
Yeah, I made the exact same assumption as you there because my brother had a Sega Saturn at the time, and he had a copy of Panzer Dragoon. And yeah, when I seen Dragoon title, I was like, oh yeah, it's a sequel maybe. Why is it on PlayStation?
Right.
Well, it's not
That
like
was
we've
my intro
had
to
games
it.
that haven't jumped platforms before now. Like Shenmue. Like, I remember that on Dreamcast, and it's like, I have to go to Xbox now to play the rest?
As for me, I think it has been mentioned before on one of our streams.
Probably.
It was my brother gifted me a PS1. I was about 10 at the time, back in obviously around 2000. Yeah, and it, like you're saying, with that transition phase where they were started to sell off PS1 games because the PS2 come out then eventually a year or two for us for then. Uh, I picked up copies. I had a copy of Breath of Fire 4, spectacular. There's so much. My first introduction to like RPG games. On the PlayStation was I picked up Breath of Fire 4. My cousin lent me Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, so I got to play those. And I went to a car boot sale, and this one gentleman was selling some PlayStation games, but you asking quite a bit. But then he had one that was not in a case; he just had 3 discs, and it was Legend of Dragoon, and I bought it for 50 pence, so very very cheap.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember like just playing the game and just the opening CGI, the opening video was just captured me, and it was just such an amazing game. And I just got hooked. I remember playing through it, and then it's like put disc 2 in, brilliant, yes, carried on playing, and it was just that devastating moment where I got to the end of disc 3 and they went, please insert disc 4.
And you realized you didn't have the last disc.
Didn't have disc 4, so I never got to complete it when I was younger.
Oh,
I never got Ultra Computer when I was young for a different reason, but I'll dive into that.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It was cruel.
So, Ash, was that car boot where you heard about the game for the first time? Because that was more of the question. It's like the discovery of the game.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, so yeah, never heard of it. I just, I was just kind of giving you the idea that I played RPG games before, and I'd seen this guy selling it, and when I seen the game at the car boot sale, I thought obviously it was a sequel to Panzer Dragoon, and yeah, it was. The guy said, no, it's a good JRPG game, and yeah, I've never heard of it prior to that, and.
For me, it was in the glory days of official magazines that came with demo discs. And the demo disc, at the time, I think it had Final Fantasy 9, Legend of Dragoon, and I can't really remember anything else that was part of the disc, but it was the start of the game where you had to find the axe to chop down the tree to go down the river. Like really early on, that was where the demo was based. I was playing this like, this looks cool.
Random, hey, let's drop down this bridge. Oh no, we got a tree. Landed right where we needed to be. That's cool. All right, I guess that worked.
Yeah. So that was my discovery of the game. It's like, yeah, I really like this. I know I asked my parents for it and just never had it. But luckily, doing school years, a friend of mine had the game, managed to say, can I lend it off here to play it? Yeah, sure. So I ended up playing it, got to the end of disc 3. Could not work out how to get the correct code to leave that advanced civilization city with a bureaucracy. So I never finished that. As I gave it back, I said, I haven't got a clue how to get out of the city. Managed to lend it again back years later when me and Ash were in college together. Because his girlfriend, wife now, was in our class. It's like, yeah, can you back down so I can borrow it again? And managed to get back, finish it, and I still love the game. But half of the concept with this particular show originally was, yeah, we'll recomplete it, have a chat. But I was watching a video by another YouTuber, Twitcher, Slackoholicus.
Yeah.
And he played through Legend of Dragoon, and he said something like, even though it was a game he had never played, it just made him nostalgic for that era. It was a game of nostalgia. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much a better show for us. Because this is a game from when we were younger, in a lot of ways.
Do you know what I think helped that? The soundtrack.
Yeah.
The soundtrack to this game was very, Final Fantasy is very unique. It has, it's when you listen to that music, it's not like it's tied to the 90s. You listen to Final Fantasy music, it's Final Fantasy. But Legend of Dragoon, the soundtrack for that game, just every time I listen to it, the music that plays, I'm like, that's so 90s for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a shame, I think, in some respects, that the tracks are really, really short.
Yeah, they are very short.
like darts music in particular, that like let's get pumped type beat that they have in it. That track's like what, like 58 or 60 seconds, and they use the hell out of it. And every time it comes on, you're like, yes, this is great.
Well, I
So,
think
like,
going back is sort of makes sense. The fact that we got audio files for characters when they attack, which, depending on who you have in your party, is a good and bad thing. Especially thinking of Meru with a 2-hit combo.
Right.
But then
the music is phenomenal, though.
Yeah.
Even though some of it admittedly doesn't fit, it feels like it was designed where the sound design maybe didn't have access to the entire game when they were doing bits and pieces of it. But you're like, man, that is a banging track. It doesn't make any sense where the hell they're playing it in the story, but that is an awesome track.
Yeah, like the main song, that has stuck with me. Ever since I heard it. Like, I was going to start the show today with, do you guys have dreams that you can fly? Then I forgot to start it because of the OBS glitching. Yeah, all these years later, going back to it now with the PS5 version, I'm just at the start of disc 2. It's like, yeah. It does so many things that, if you compare it to how the Final Fantasy games were at the same time, they do so many things that are way beyond. Like, we got voiced cutscenes. We got the end of boss battle cutscenes that we don't have text boxes. It just plays out in real time. Which means you have to pay more attention. You can't look away during this. But likely the PS5 version has a rewind feature, which is really good for when you fuck up additions. Just to grind those out over and over. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
there's so
it
many
does.
cool things.
It's one of those things, though, like, you look back on it, and obviously there's tons of nostalgia for this. I mean, I got my copy right here for the show and have it on the Steam Deck and everything, but it's kind of average. Like, it's really wild looking back at an RPG, and you're like, man, I have so much love for that game, and the nostalgia goggles are in full force, but kind of just average. There's some neat things, like the localization is horrible. Like, it's absolutely horrible. Some of the translations, but look at, I mean, we didn't get it till what, 2000 here in the States on our side, and the PlayStation 2 had come out in Japan by the time we had gotten Legend of Dragoon. And if you look at, like, here's just a couple RPGs that came out in 2000, right? Saga Frontier 2, Alundra 2, Rhapsody, kind of in a different bucket, but a cute game. Vagrant Story, Legend of Mana, obviously Legend of Dragoon, Threads of Fate, Chrono Cross, Valkyrie Profile, Final Fantasy IX, Breath of Fire 4, Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete, the PlayStation version, Persona 2. And that doesn't even count, like, the last couple of months of 1999 when this game came out in Japan, which saw Suikoden 2, Final Fantasy 8, Grandia, Thousand Arms. Look at that era.
I know.
I'm not.
Why on earth do we remember this game?
I think, like, because it's like
I'm trying to find out at least a bit jealous from the fact that many of those games you mentioned there didn't come out in the in PAL format in the UK or in Europe. Shame, really.
But yeah,
You look
speaking
at
of
that era,
Slack's
you're like,
point,
Dragoon is mediocre.
Yeah.
But we still, like, absolutely remember it.
Yeah.
And either and there is that, like, you either love it or you hate it type thing. There are people that just can't stand it. And their arguments aren't wrong. Like,
Slack's on the boat of he didn't enjoy the game. But it's the case of it is a game that just screams the nostalgia of that era game.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
think
you
it's
can go
because
back to films. It's like just a Hammer horror film. Doesn't matter which one, but it screams Hammer horror.
Yeah.
But do you think it might be because, like, with the Mana series, with Persona series, there have been sequels since? So when you think back of it, your memories of it spans a couple of years then, because there's different, the more recent titles, where with Legend of Dragoon it's just one game, and obviously it sits back in the early 2000s, and that's the only one. So it is mediocre in the sense of, like, all the other games that had come out in that time. But I just think story wise and I think the story does
So
still
kind
hold
of
up.
like there's a no need to be nostalgic about Final Fantasy IX because we're about to get Final Fantasy 16. It never went
Yeah.
anywhere. We keep getting those. That type of
Yeah,
mentality.
yeah, certainly. Yeah, because obviously Final Fantasy spans many titles, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just, even with the themes throughout the game, it is very common, right? We got two moons. We've got Big Bad, who's not really the Big Bad, because there's something else. There's a lot of
Right.
commonality themes, but most RPGs share themes anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of Final Fantasy VII in there. It's undeniable, right? You have a lot of Final Fantasy VII, and that was. We don't know exactly when they started development, so we don't. I don't think they were trying to make a carbon copy, but they definitely have some elements in there of Seven with the silver-haired bad guy and big sword and main female character seems to bite it, and one male character does bite it. And you have the very Luke, I am your father moment, and like you do have a lot of tropey
Well, in this
stuff
case, it's
in
Luke,
there.
I am your grandfather.
Right. You do have like the very tropey stuff in there, but it's like it manages to pull off all these cliches in what at least I think is an incredibly charming
Yeah,
package.
very endearing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things I found that they did that still stand out in a lot of ways for me, even though the localization was bad. I love the quirkiness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, the early internet memes, all our base belong to us. It's like, it's just classic shit like that. It sticks with you for a reason.
That's Life is a piece of text dialogue in an RPG I will never forget. When the two are in the planetarium and he's apologizing for them having to sneak away and have these dates inside a planetarium, and her reply is, "That's life." Like, okay, I guess that's life.
Yeah. But I do like how the game has its arcs. Because you start off with Dart just chilling out. You see Failbrand, the Green Dragon.
Yep.
See him doing it. Like, what the fuck's going on here? To find out his adoptive town is burnt to the ground. His childhood friend has been kidnapped. And you have this one arc. It's like, right, I need to rescue my friend. With Illumin, this guy's been fucking off to look for the black monster that killed his birth parents. So it's like subtleties with that. It's a bit more, yeah, I'm an ex-soldier, I'm just doing this for money, to draw it to 7. It feels like there's a bit more realism to the story progression, at least at the start. Outside of it all, you got a world tree with 108 species and all that jazz.
Yeah, and then you find out, like, hey, in these 4 discs, we're gonna cover 11,000 years of lore. Like, holy shit, how ambitious was that? Yeah. We're gonna cover 11, and then you have like that type of deep stuff you're talking about, and then you have a character named Lavit Slambert. Like, what the hell is going on in this game? His last name is Slambert. Where did this come from?
Well, don't forget, you got Darkfeld.
Yeah. That's Slambert. I'm changing my children's name to Slambert. Slambert.
But yeah, some of the names are just silly. So, was there a go-to party you always went to?
Well, I mean, it was always kind of, for me, Dart, Mara, and Lavis's dad, Albert.
Albert, the king.
Yeah. So it was always Dart, Albert, and Mara for me. Once you had all of them in the story sequence.
Because we did have for 7 playable characters. So we had Dart, Shanna, which becomes Miranda, Lavish becomes Albert, which always screwed me over with the addition system, which we'll go on to soon. We got Rose, Hashel, Kongal, and Meru.
Yeah, and then Rose obviously a bit memeish as far as the attacks go.
Yeah.
As far as some of her attacks go.
What about you, Ash?
Apologies, I was a bit distracted there. Can you repeat the question?
What was your main party? After you recruited everyone, who did you take to the finale?
Trying to think. I think I had Dart and Shanna, definitely, because she was like my go-to for healing. and it was I did have him for a while. It was the one that was the giant,
Congal.
the Congo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Congo.
it was, uh, yeah, I think it was them because it was three.
Yeah,
It was a
three party members.
team setup. Yeah. Sorry about the background because
Yeah,
my partner's
your
just
missus.
walking.
Yeah, I think for like first time around I played it, it was just like, yeah, Albert looks cool. Congal, massive axe. Yeah, gotta bring him along. But when I actually went to finish the game, I think it was Dart, Rose, and probably kept Albert as well because of the physical magic on his Dragoon spirit.
Yeah. But then you like first playthrough, you write your. I was what 18, right around there. And, you see, first playthrough, you're just playing whoever cool.
Yeah.
And then so Kong, like, the party, you're like, this guy looks awesome.
Yeah, every time we punch him, he counted us.
Like, yeah, it is way poor in this game, and this dude don't have it. You're blind, friend.
Yeah. How's the weather over there at the minute, Mike? We're getting a little robot off you.
Yeah, I just saw my internet. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. You're just getting the odd
You
moment.
did drop a bit.
Yeah. Just to
we're-
let chat
we're
know,
in
Mike is
storms
in
and
high winds at the
So
minute.
I apologize. Yeah.
So the audio quality of
We're
this
gonna
episode
have
might be a
to
bit
watch this on the
shocking,
other
but we'll
side
get it.
today.
But yeah, let's get on to what made Dragoon unique, and that's your Dragoon transformations and additions. Because one thing I always hated until it's like, right, I could use magic around this, as soon as you transformed, you could not use items.
Right.
So if you went into the special one, everyone transforms at the same time, and you needed to heal, and you didn't have any party members with healing Dragoon magic, you was kind of screwed.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but your inventory was severely limited.
Oh,
right? 'Cause
yeah.
It had to be the way items worked. You couldn't be walking around with hundreds of healing items or anything. So it was like, what, 30? Something like that. 30, 32, 35.
Yeah, I think it was
inventory.
increases over the game. I think
Yeah,
my inventory's at 23 right now.
That's the one thing that was a bit of a letdown. Obviously, other RPGs that you played at that time, that you said you got Final Fantasy 9, is that you have one item, and if you have like several of that said item, you have one slot in your item list, and it'd be like times 7. Where
Right.
if you had 7 potions, it would be 7 separate entries, and you fill your item
Very
storage up
quickly.
quickly.
Well, and then later in the game, you get items that are reusable,
Yeah.
but still take up that one inventory slot. So, like your 32 slots or 35, I can't remember how many it is, when you're done, it effectively becomes 20, right?
Yeah.
Because you have those reusable
Yeah, I think
items
right
that
now
you
where I
have
am, I have 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I mean, at least your inventory one went up to 150, 200.
Yeah, but I mean, but if you look at the game's design, it had to be that way
Yeah.
because of the way they don't do quote unquote magic, right? It's item based instead, and healing, particularly if you don't have Shauna, can be a pain in the butt sometimes. So you rely on items so much that, like, I kind of get it from a design philosophy.
you'll build
I
for
can't
your
just let you
inventory
carry
slots.
100 potions type deal.
Especially when it's not just restore 10 HP or 20 HP, it's
Right.
half your health. That is your
Yeah.
base standard potion.
Yep. And then the addition system, like, so I had seen. It's not exactly the same, but I had seen that type of turn-based combat before, right? And I think we all had in Super Mario RPG. on
I had
the
never
Super
played
Nintendo.
it.
It wasn't. Oh,
So
okay,
this
it
was a
wasn't-
first for me.
It wasn't like multiple presses like that,
Yeah.
right? It was, but there was the ability of during an attack, if you hit a button right when the attack hit an enemy in Super Mario RPG, it would do extra effects and extra damage. So
So a bit
that
like
type of thing-
Squall in 8 with his Red Suzuki.
Yeah. So, but Legend of Dragoon was the first time where it was that I had seen that it was like multiple presses, 2 different buttons depending on what was going on. Man, this is actually really neat. Like, this makes me feel more engaged
Oh,
in a
definitely.
system that generally isn't all that engaging. And then you fast forward, and we've seen other games since then do that. The entire Shadow Hearts series is not done quite the same, right? They have the whole
Roulette
dial,
wheel.
and you have to queue up and hit the things, and then the attack goes off. You're not doing it in real time with the attack, but a very similar system. So it kind of it is one of those things that everybody remembers.
Yeah.
Like, you may not remember the story, you may not remember the music, besides a few tracks. You may not feel emotionally invested in any of these characters 10 years after you've played it, but everybody remembers the combat system.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Although the one thing that does stand out for Shadow Hearts for us, in that sense, Paul, is that you have this Japanese game and then they end up going to Wales.
Yeah.
Why?
Kadelka, set in a Welsh monastery.
Why?
End of Shadow Hearts 1, you're in Anglesey, and now you're above Wales in space. I was like, this guy must love Wales. But yeah, I remember, especially playing it now, where I was using Lavitz a lot just to try and master some of the additions before the inevitable death. Didn't manage to get all of them. I was like, this is good enough. I've already chucked 17 hours into the game. I'm not even at the end of disc 1 yet. And then you go to Albert, and he's faster. So you've got a muscle memory down for Lavitz. Now you have to speed it up because Albert is a faster character.
Yep.
So when you're using one of the 6-hit editions and you got a counter in the middle of it, it throws you off so bad.
Yep.
But it's such a good system, especially the fact that enemies can counter during your attack chain.
How are you finding the grind of going back to an older game? Like, because obviously the nostalgia side is kind of driving back.
The grind is different with Dragoon because the max level is 60. So the game gives you just enough XP to maybe be a level or two over where you should be at any given point. So you've got a challenge there if you want it, and it's a tiny bit easier if you've ground a bit. But it is a case of the more party members you get, the less XP gets given to each.
Yeah, it's also
member.
one of those weird games the way grinding works, right? Like, you aren't necessarily grinding for experience points in that game because like every regular enemy gives you practically none, and then bosses just shower you with experience. And then the way it breaks it up over your active party versus your inactive party, like there are elements where, you know, whoever you're trying, based on whoever you may be trying to level wise, it may be easier or better for you to kill 2 party members in your party and just solo things with Dart, because then the percentages shift to the back row in a more beneficial fashion. Like, the math of that entire game is screwed up in many, many ways. So there is no traditional, like, hey, just walk around the Veld and keep killing things and level up and level up and level up. You can go hunt certain monsters to do that, the unique monsters, the Triceratops, the stuff like that. But what you're really trying to do is grind out the 80 edition hits that you need for each of your editions, right?
Yeah.
So that you can
SP as well for your Dragoon levels.
So, that's why you're grinding the editions, so that you can open up all the editions, get the ones that are going to give you the most SP upon completion, and then grind those SP points for the Dragoon forms. So it's a bit of a weird system in. You're grinding initially. You're grinding at the same time, right? You're getting experience points and you're completing additions on some of your initial additions. But then later it becomes like you're really not concerned about your character's level all that much, unless you're going to go do some of the optional ridiculously hard bosses. Then you're going to be there for a while. But it's really about, all right, queue up the next edition and let's bang this out 80 times. Find the best enemies for me to just slap these things 80 times with these editions to open up the next one and eventually open up the master editions. So it's kind of a weird, like, multi-tiered grinding system going on in it, which I don't think holds up as well today. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the math is a little bit broken in the back of Dragoon, but was certainly a bit more unique for its time. Yeah,
starting disc 2 at level 16 is like, I feel very low. Because you, like in Final Fantasy 7, I'm probably level 30 plus.
Right.
In 9, if I've got Grand Dragons, I'm in the 60s. Yes. It's a part of the charm. As much as it's nostalgic as again, it's part of the charm of this particular thing. Sony decided to make a game that was unique to themselves in a lot of ways. They might have copied elements from other stuff, but it was unique to its own environment. But why they didn't add additions to Shana and Miranda, I don't know. They got a bow. Let's not do any additions, Paul. They could shoot 2 arrows at once. Come on now.
Yeah, so they get what? They get the SP just for every attack.
Yeah, they just get a flat rate. So it's just like, all you care about is getting the Dragoon levels up, which I haven't even bothered yet. Because I'm finding between Albert and Rose, I can heal and just mitigate all the damage I need.
Yeah. And guard. Oh, by the way, if we're going to talk about healing.
Oh, yeah, guard.
Talk about the most useful guard ability in any RPG, Ash. Like, it's amazing.
Give HP, reduce damage at the same time.
Yeah.
That has saved me so far on 2 bosses.
10 HP, 10% HP, something like that. It's just like, okay, kill everything on the field except for the last thing. Everybody go to guard until our life is refilled. Yeah. Kill it off and go. Now we don't need to use healing items at all.
Yeah.
That was quite a handy feature again. I give it that.
Did you find any characters trickier than others for additions?
I don't think so. No. Like I've always been very good at rhythm games. So even though it's not like to the beat of the music or anything, there is absolutely a visual logic to the addition system, right? It is pretty close to their animations. So even though the box on the box is a little wonky sometimes, if you are watching the animations, you'll probably have an easier time if the boxes are bothering you. So I'm generally pretty decent at rhythm games, so the additions are really no challenge for me. Yeah.
Just because he's a bit fast. The one I'm leveling up now is the last 2 button presses are fast together, but not too fast, so it's like getting that internal tempo of the last 2 hits. I'm like, first couple of hits, yeah, fine fight. Bollocks, too early, too late.
How many times are you hear Gust of Wind Dance? It's like the worst.
That's what I'm waiting for. It's like, Raw Typhoon. That's what I'm doing. But it's got to PS5 now. It's like I'm rewinding to the start of the combo. I am getting it down. I am not losing my count for that addition because of timing.
The timings.
Yeah, I want to before you start,
what...
Dash. I want to point out I'm only doing rewind to correct my additions in the overworld, not against bosses. I'm not cheesing shit.
Likely story.
You could tell.
No, it's because I actually like the animation when he fuck up against Kongol. And he just grips my throat and shows him.
And if you were playing the game and you started missing your timings left, right, and centre, you're tired, you need to go to bed. The game would punish you if you were tired.
Yeah, again, so the bosses, you have to get your additions correct, or they counter you at the end of it.
Yeah.
But again, another thing you wouldn't find in a Final Fantasy game, mostly. Recent ones, sure, is more action-based. It's a bit of a different system.
Yeah, and 16 obviously taking that to the extreme there with the whole Devil May Cry style.
Oh, I can't wait for that demo. I really can't wait for that demo. But yeah, something I brought up in pre-show is something this game did that it's probably existed in other PS1 era RPGs. But when you're on, say, disc 3, disc 4, and you go back to early towns, you have to swap discs to access those towns.
Yeah.
It's like, that's something you don't get with emulation now. You might get the loading screen and, please wait, as it internally changes the disc for you.
Yeah, because isn't Kongol, Kongol, I think it is, his Dragoon gem thing, that's actually available in a shop, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, like, you can go back to, I think it's a disc 1 shop and fucking buy his Dragoon gem. You're just like, hey, can we have that, please? We got a dude that might need it. But yeah, those are, and he's totally optional. He's like when you think about it, he's like the Kamari of Legend of Dragoon. Like, you could totally just forget Kongol. There's like no meaningful character development besides him saving the party at that one point, like holding the thing up. But yeah, you just go buy his thing. That's what I remember having.
It was a discount Amaranth from 9.
Yeah,
because same progression. He gets hired, we beat him up, we humiliate him, then he saves our life eventually and follows us.
Yeah.
Ugh. But one thing I do like is Dart's progression throughout the game. Because, again, he goes out hunting the black monster who turns out to be Rose. She's now been alive for 11,000 plus years.
She looks great. I mean, She looks great. A few polygons at all. She looks fantastic for 11,000 years old.
You need to play the PS5 version. The polygon glitches on her face is hilarious. She has a nose, then her chin descends. Nose, descent. Some of the glitches are fantastic. So yeah, find out about Rose, then you end up fighting Lloyd a lot, our silver-haired bad guy with a dragon buster sword that kills dragoons. But eventually Lloyd has a redemption moment, and Dart, after losing the red Ice Dragoon spirit to fake dad, if I remember, who turned out to actually be Melbu Fremer, part of my notes, he becomes the Divine Dragoon right at the end of the game.
Yeah.
That's something I think we don't see enough of anymore, is like getting powered up past what you initially are. Outside of things like 14 where we break our limits every 4 seconds.
Right.
We get punched, we just turn into Goku, we train for 5 seconds, and we're fine.
I always liked Dart's arc is very, very good. I always thought Rose's was infinitely more interesting.
Yeah.
Like Rose is a horribly tragic figure. Like, I mean, the whole burden of, basically destroying pockets of civilization every 108 years or whatever it is, to
108
eventually
years to kill the Moonchild.
right to make sure that civilization doesn't end as a whole. And having done that for 11,000 years, and like I always thought Rose's story arc was incredibly interesting.
Yeah, certain characters definitely well more written than others.
Yeah.
But I think Dart
And
and Rose...
then you have the
been
Dart Lavitz bromance, which actually I think is a bromance really well done in an RPG. Like they have their moments of levity, they have their moments of seriousness. None of it feels hokey or forced, even though the dialogue might not be the best here and there. So I always thought, that's really nice. And then you get the Mira. Who does she mess around with? And they basically become the comedic relief of the rest of the game too. Like you just have a nice balance. Kongol's the only one that really doesn't fit for me, because there's really no meaningful character development for him. But they all like have their moments.
Yeah.
Or their purposes in the story arc, and it's well done. It's a 1990s RPG, and it's well done on that front.
Yeah. I think if it was redone today with a story, flesh it back out, sort out the translation issues, it could potentially be a really epic tale.
So that's the question. Obviously, for years and years, we're going on 23 years anniversary here in the States, 24 in Japan. There's been talk of a remake for decades now, or clamoring for a remake for decades. Does it actually happen?
I'm not sure. With the PS5 release right now, I think that might be the closest we get. They might gauge interest to see, well, we actually, outside of the people who subscribe to PlayStation Premium, this is actually sold quite well outside of it.
I mean, it's only like what, like $6, something like that?
£8 UK, I think.
£8.
So maybe $8.50, $9 American.
No, they usually get cheaper. They usually get cheaper in the US. We're the ones who unfortunately get shafted.
We are quite close to each other price-wise these days.
Yeah, $10, $9.99.
There you go.
Yeah, nice and cheap, but if it gets interest, it's always a chance.
It'd be really tricky to do a remake of Legend of Dragoon, because with the caliber of like full blown like AAA RPG games that we have now and the graphics that go into it, is that if they were going to commit to remaking Legend of Dragoon, it's got to be, like a spectacular looking game.
Yeah, you can't half-ass this one.
Yeah, because it's the nostalgia factor. Is that if it doesn't live up to the original game, yeah,
Yeah, but would it need to
this
be like close to a Final Fantasy 16 level of graphics?
yeah, but no, that's the if it was a if it was a pixel, a 2D pixel game when it first came out, like with the Suikoden games, they can bring out a two like a HD to 2.5,
Right.
the Octopath style, and probably development wise, it won't cost you as much as it would be to develop a full blown 3D RPG game these days, and yeah, it still live up to the nostalgia factor. I think, unfortunately, because it was like one of the first 3D games of PlayStation and of a JRPG on the PlayStation. That yeah, it's just I would like to see a HD polish of it, but seeing as they've released this the original game now for PS4, PS5, I don't know if they'll do that.
Yeah, and if you think back, the budget for the game back then was 16 million. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's a big budget. And you still ended up with, it was the beginning of the PS2 3D era at that point. And you still end up with some character models that look a little wonky, even if you go back and play it on a PlayStation 1, not the remake, but play from the discs. They also tried to avoid that whole, we didn't want the models to look way too different in a cutscene versus in game, so we were using these models here and here, and they don't always look their best. But it was a $16 million game back then.
Yeah.
Development would have been what, 97 through 99-ish. Let's say it was 2 years of development. That's a big budget. Obviously, Final Fantasy budgets were a lot bigger, but that is a big budget. And I agree with you, Ash. Like, it's one of those things that if Sony decided, you know what, we're going to do this, you immediately have to go, okay, we're setting aside 60 million. Like, you can't say, can we do this for 10, 15, 20, 25 million? Because the answer is going to be no. You're going to get an initial big rush of sales from nostalgia heads like us that, oh my God, there's a Legend of Dragoon remake. I'm buying that day one. And then it has all these different flaws. It doesn't live up to things, and the sales just immediately stop at that point. It never has the longevity of just selling over time. So I agree with you. I don't think, and I'd love to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong, but I don't think we get the full remake treatment of Legend of Dragoon because it's risky.
Yep.
It's risky. You have to treat it as a AAA remake, and that's a risky endeavor for what was, even back then, a mediocre RPG.
If obviously if the rumors are true about Final Fantasy 9, but if they want to do a remaster of Final Fantasy 9, they know they would get good sales for it because it's the name, it's the brand. Everybody knows Final Fantasy now, and the thing is with Legend of Dragoon, it's risky in the sense that it was just a one-off game. So there might not be like a following for Dragoon other than
it's more of a cult following these
again,
days.
I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those like vocal minority moments, right? Like there's not a ton of people, comparatively speaking, that want the remake, but the ones that do, like us, are like, "Where's the damn remake?" We're very loud on forums and stuff like that, and signing petitions and things.
It's like,
I don't know. I just think Sony's in such a weird spot right now as a video game company.
Yeah.
That I don't know if this one's on their radar anytime soon, even though I might love it to be.
I wonder, as much as Kickstarters come and go now, especially the fact that we've just had on Fantasia and I can't remember the Shadow Arts spiritual successor.
Oh yeah.
Penny something, Anna.
I don't remember.
It was Kadelka. Shadow Hearts came
out.
No,
one they're doing now, the Kickstarter design.
Yeah, the Kickstarter.
So we got one from the Wild Arms team, one from the Shadow Arts team. It was a joint Kickstarter they did.
Well, that's the first I've heard of that one.
Oh, I've told you about it. I sent you the Kickstarter to look at.
You've sent me a lot of things.
Yes,
I can only box so much.
But yeah, something like that. If
double bundle, Penny Blood.
Penny Blood, that's the one. But something like that is like a spiritual remake, like done with a smaller team, like some people who originally worked on it and just want to do it in their own time or something. Crowdfunded a little.
You could do that, or I think Ash, to your point on just being a risky endeavor to half-ass it, maybe something that's less risky but has just as much potential for the payoff is to do the canceled sequel. then you don't have the expectation of recreating the original to a higher remake degree. You satisfy Legend of Dragoon fans because we have a 2023, 2024, 25 Legend of Dragoon title with some of the same characters. It was something they were originally planning at the time and got canceled. So I think maybe something like that is the kind of best of both worlds. You don't have to
I'd be
worry
down for it.
about damaging the perception of the original, but still satisfying fans that want to see that combat system, want to see some of those characters, want to see that music done in a 2023 era.
What I would say as well is, obviously, it says on the back of the case, Legend of Dragoon 80-hour gameplay. Is that if they were to either do a remaster or a sequel, the thing is trying to create these grand JRPG or just RPG games in general these days with the scope that they have and the if they do like open map as well and try to make it a like 80, 90 to 100-hour game is very difficult and requires a big budget to do that.
Yeah, and let's be honest, the first one is only 80 hours or so if you want to go do the optional side bosses and stuff.
Yeah,
You could roll
Collecting
through
the
this game in
stardust
25.
and
Yeah, you could roll through this game in 25 hours if you want.
well, yeah, that's what makes laugh is when many of the complaints I've heard of like modern RPG games now is that there's loads of boring fetch side quests and that. Well, how do you think this? You have this massive open map world. How do you think they're supposed to add life to it? That this, of course, they're going to have like these random quests. You can't just have like
I do miss
expand their
world
entire
maps.
map and have it all main story.
I do miss those.
I mean, even
maps.
Final Fantasy 16, they recently just said, hey, the main campaign's probably about 25 to 35 hours.
Yeah.
Probably 70 to 80 hours if you want to do all the side stuff. And that's totally fine by me. Let's do it.
Then on the other hand, you get like Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm on chapter 4 and I'm 75 hours in.
All right.
Yeah, that thing sucks your time in. We are coming up on our hour-ish now, so any last things you want to say? Any core memories or anything you want to shout out about Legend of Dragoon?
So this may not be. I hadn't looked at. I was watching a video. I can't even remember who said it, and they were pointing out a bunch of small things in the game, like the cursor over your head when you're running through the environments, right? That goes from blue to yellow to red, and kind of signifies when you're about to hit an encounter. Random battle. And while that was like one of the most meaningless things in the game, it was probably the highest stress inducing. Like, there was no way you could influence that counter, that pointer. Walking versus running didn't matter. Like, it was going to do its thing.
Did you hope that when it was about to turn red and you get to the end of the map and you try to
like, ooh, just make it through.
There's a town. There's a town. I can do it. I can do it. No.
It resets it, doesn't it?
It was like, man, I can't influence that. It's totally meaningless. It's just I'm a random battle. Now I know roughly when I'm gonna hit a random battle. But like, you sit there with the sphincter tight. Just make it to the edge of the screen, damn it. And then little touches like that same cursor being in battles. Changing colors, giving you like a rough indication of when something was about to die. Text boxes with the target names in them that showed their elements and things like that. And so when I was watching this video and they were talking about those things, and I was like, yeah, those are great. When they got to the element box thing, they said, I had no idea that this was a thing. No clue, because it's not given to you anywhere in the game. And it made me think back, and I was just like, there's a lot that's not given to you in that game.
Yeah.
Because this was the era of the instruction manual, right? This lovely and
Bobby got both versions. Are the manuals different between America and the UK?
Yeah, so this is the US manual. And I have the original. This is not like the greatest hits version or anything. Oh, man, I don't know which one I like better.
Yeah, UK version always getting the box art on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and we get, but yeah, it made me think back. Like, I have 3 kids, right? And the youngest of them is going to be 16 shortly here, so they're not babies anymore by any stretch of the imagination. And it just makes me sad. It just makes me sad. And I'm sure you guys remember this too. Like, you had to go to a store to get a game, right? And you probably had to save up your little weekend job cash or whatever you had going, or it was your birthday or it was Christmas. Because I didn't grow up in a well-off house that it just, that game came out today, let's go buy it. No, that was not an option for me.
Birthday, Christmas, that was it.
Yeah, yeah. And like the journey to the mall, right? And the picking of the game, and then the taking it home and in the car, opening it up. And when you get home, taking a dump and reading the manual, like just like
Manuals
it was
as
just
well.
it just makes me feel like, you know, there's something missing in
that
gaming
is
today,
why
and that
I
is, it's just
loved
not
Witcher 3 so much.
exciting. Yeah, it's just not exciting buying a
Because
game.
can you think of any game
No.
since like the PS3 era, really, that had a proper manual outside of Witcher 3?
Or
On
just
PS4.
manual maps, or might have like a little pamphlet that advertises another game in the series, or by that publisher or developer. Yeah, you just buy games now. As soon as you open it up, it's just the disc or the chip, you know. Because I just recently picked up, what was it? Bravely Default 2 on the Switch, and you open it up, it's just there's the game.
Legend of Dragoon is just like the quintessential game in that era of my life, right? Where getting a game was an adventure. You were excited to get out to the mall that day. You were excited to get home. You couldn't wait to fire it up. You were checking out the manual. You didn't know anything about it because there was no research online to do it.
Yeah.
And it just makes me like, fine, I love the convenience now of being like, oh, that game came out on Steam, click download, boom, I'm playing it in 30 minutes.
It's
Obviously, I'd love that. Or having something pre-ordered because I want the physical edition and it's on my porch the day it comes out. But it just does make me a little bit sad for like my kids and kids now, where it's just like
you raised
go
it
heaven's
meaningless to you.
Go
Like, there
heaven's
is
sword
no
by it. You open it up
anticipation or
and
excitement.
yeah,
that's
you
just
raised a good
disappointing.
Yeah. Well, you raised a good
Whereas-
point there, Mike.
That's a bit of a controversial one.
But
And you get that.
you were
nice,
saying about
nice manual.
the internet, and it's that the one thing I really enjoyed was because it was Game Station for us, our store game and Game Station, and just going there and just discovering games that you've never heard of before. That's you remember you picked up the Bouncer on PS2, and just how I'd never heard of the Persona series. I came across Persona 3 Fez just come out, and actually it came out towards the end of the PS2 era, didn't it? And yeah, it was just the excitement of coming across something that looks amazing you've never heard of. But now with obviously internet, is that you don't get that excitement of finding out about something because like
it just gets you there.
God, that's such a good point. Like going to, okay, when was the last time you went to GameStop just to look?
Just to browse down.
Every time you've gone to GameStop was to pick up something you've pre-ordered, or you didn't want to pre-order it, but you knew it came out. Maybe you waited for reviews. You went and picked it up.
Yeah.
Like that was it, man. You went to GameStop and you took a shot on something at some point, maybe.
Like the most we get now is
back of
like
the
we'll
box,
go
you're
to a
like, "This sounds
supermarket.
dope."
Yeah, we'll go to a supermarket. They have a game
with the
aisle.
video shops.
Like
When
Ash,
you go to the video shop and come across films.
yeah. Ash, me and you, like if we pop over to Asda or Tesco and we grab some beer or something, we go up to the aisle where they still sell video games. We look at it, go, this is so small. It's like two little tiny shelves by themselves. Just your typical FIFA and whatever's currently in the charts, and it's just like. Yeah, I remember when this store had a bargain basket with PS1 games for like £2, and it was My Height Deep.
Yeah, I think there's a thing in I don't know what it's like in the US, but in the UK it's most of your supermarkets like your likes of Asda's, Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Morrison's. They used to have a good section when it came to like films and games, but they've all like unanimously started slimming it down, and they just have like a one shelf, like Paul mentioned. And yeah,
But there'll be gift cards galore next to it.
It's because obviously it's the dawn of like digital gaming, and that's what's killing it off, unfortunately. And
it's just like I love the convenience, but you pay for it in another respect, and there's no adventure to me buying a video game anymore.
I've got a question for you, Mike. because we don't get manuals anymore, it's back in those days. Did you ever open that game and you just had to sniff that brand new paper and the plastic, every single bit, just absorb what you've just purchased?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's another thing.
Like,
Kids these days, they'll never know that. Like,
they'll never know.
instead, they get a Nintendo Switch cartridge and be disgusted. That's as close as they'll ever
Open
get.
it up and you're just like, oh, the smell of printed plastic. Oh, love it.
Yeah, but just that smell hits you with nostalgia. And that's what Legend of Dragoon is. It is just nostalgia-driven fun. Love it, hate it, you will feel nostalgic around that time of your life. Even if you've never experienced it, you will just get nostalgic for the early 2000s and the late 90s. And it'll take you there. Whether you want to enjoy the journey or not, you're stuck there. Anyway, we are...
Just get through the first disc. The first disc is pretty boring. It's pretty run-of-the-mill. Once you get past that, it starts finding its own little groove, even if some of it's tropey. Get past the first disc.
It is worth the playthrough just the once. You may come back for more, you may not. But at least you can say you have played The Legend of Dragoon. And with that, another show down on the books. Sort of kept it to an hour. We might have gone over a little. Yeah, so Mike, let our chat know where they can find you, what are you up to, and all that good stuff, sir.
The best place is over on either mmobomb.com, where we cover everything multiplayer, news, giveaways, first look videos, shorts, a weekly podcast that's in video and audio form. Anything multiplayer with a pretty focus on MMOs and MMORPGs. You'll find me there. And then my own project is Ready Check Radio, RAIDEO, where we do a number of podcasts, one general gaming, one on Square Enix and Final Fantasy XIV. And then we have a bunch of variety streamers, including myself, who does Final Fantasy, the trading card game, live local gameplay, as we are prepping for the first competitive season in a few years since COVID killed everything. So it's a good time. You can follow us on both Twitch, Twitter, MMOBomb, and on Twitter for Ready Check Radio. It's just RC Radio. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Flynn, Ash, you know I love you both. It's always fun to be here.
We love having you here. Hopefully we get you back before another 10 shows goes down, or we're just giving you to that first show of a block, and then you're stuck. You're just locked in now. Forevermore. Ash, how about you? What are you up to?
Yeah, it's obviously I am very distracted as of late. But as apologies, I was stuffing my face. I was very hungry. It was the timing, but yeah,
you were just eating your nostalgia.
Eating my nostalgia. Yeah, I'm working through my backlog of games very well. Obviously, all I've left on PS5 now is Horizon and Hogwarts. I got that to play. And I am kind of limiting or restricting myself from buying anything or anything else to play until, of course, 16. And that's where I'll be waiting. That comes out a few days for my birthday, so I'll be off for that week. Good reason.
As for myself, I will be back streaming on Monday with Anything Can Happen Mondays. Hopefully Ash will be returning for our continued deep dive into Eureka Orthros and Final Fantasy XIV, going down blind. I think we're at floor 41 after a wipe to Twintania within 2 seconds of the first encounter.
Yeah,
we forgot Twister existed.
I like the faith everyone had in me, because we all got wiped and then I was the only one to get revived.
Yeah,
we were like, oh,
not
well,
the healer.
That was a good run.
The healer didn't get Pomander Resurrection buff. No, the machinist. Then next Wednesday and Thursday we'll be continuing with Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. We're on our third map. We are recruiting our army. We just got betrayed by a Urukai that we made deranged. So we're going to derange him even more because he leveled up. We're going to make him insane, hopefully, and re-recruit him. And if he betrays us again, he will have to die. Because we want him to be War Chief. We want him to be War Chief. And in terms of our podcast, we are back on the 15th of April, featuring the last member of Ready Check Radio's Relic Grind podcast. Adam Lane, Mr. Kronos. He is coming on to chat about fighting games with us. So until then, we'll catch you.